Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for May 15th, 2018. I'd like to welcome everyone who is with us in attendance this evening as we go about the city's business. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the roll.
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Wright, Director Wyrick, Director Compuris, Director Fortson, Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Webb, Mayor Stola.
Here. Let me call on Rabbi Eugene Levy for our invocation, please. Welcome, Rabbi.
We ask your blessings, O God, on the good people of this council who have been called to lead our community, the community in which we live and work and play. Help them, O God, as leaders to continue to ask, what do we need to learn? How might we need to change? And to whom do we need to listen? Remind them, O God, because we all forget from time to time, especially in the noisiness of what passes for political debate today, that they are not only leaders but also servants, and that it is their responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Remind them that no matter where we live, everyone, Christian, gay, straight, transgender, black or white, Hispanic or Asian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Sikh, or atheist, is our neighbor, our sibling, and that throughout the ages the prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least among us, our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body, mind, and spirit, the strangers, the immigrants in our midst, those who live on the margins and those who are alone, and those who are forgotten. Grant the council, O God, grant them and us the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, that we all hold good and right and true. May it be so. Amen.
Amen. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no presentations tonight, so we can move immediately into the consent agenda. Items 1 through 11. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read those items.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the March 6, 2018 and March 20th, 2018 Little Rock City Board of Directors meetings. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with River City Hydraulic Company in the amount of $2,240,376 for the purchase of 8 side loader sanitation trucks for the Public Works Department and for the purposes. A resolution authorized the purchase of 2 properties offered for sale to the City of Little Rock, Arkansas to be used for neighborhood revitalization programs and for the purposes. A resolution to set June 5th, 2018 as the date of public hearing regarding the sources and uses of funds provided in the 2018 CDBG Home and HOPWA funds for the United States government and for their purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into contracts to provide PIT funds for citywide enhancement programs for 2018 as endorsed by the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families and for the purposes. A resolution authorized the city manager to enter into contracts to provide PIT funds for after-school, out-of-school time, positive prevention, and or youth intervention programs for 2018 as endorsed by the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into contracts to provide PIT funds for summer academic enrichment and recreation programs for 2018 as endorsed by the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to execute an agreement in the amount of $399,551.81 for the replacement of equipment for the Jim Daly Fitness and Aquatic Center pursuant to a lease purchase agreement with National Cooperative Leasing and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to award a contract to J-Con Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $167,688 for the Valentine Street reconstruction and for other purposes, funding from the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the city manager to award a contract to Burkhalter Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $262,438.80 for Spring Valley Minor drainage improvements and for other purposes, funding for the 2012 3/8 capital improvement sales tax. A resolution to authorize a 2-year extension of the temporary use of the R6 high-rise residential zone property located on the east side of the 1600 block of Chester Street for student housing for Philander Smith College and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The consent agenda is adopted. So, thank you very much. You got it done without having to say anything. It's good to see you. Welcome.
Mayor, would he let people know who you are? Yes. Yes, the mayor, I was asking the mayor. Is that okay, the mayor?
Is
Go
that
right
all right,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor? Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and want to say thank you so much to you and the city directors for your continued support of Philander Smith College. I'm Roderick Smothers, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as president there. I also like to thank especially my director, Ms. Irma Hendricks, for her support, and your wonderful and dynamic city manager who has helped us to shepherd an amazing process that's going to benefit some very amazing students at Philander Smith College. Thank you so much this evening.
And Panther Village is looking very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have some pictures in the folder for you.
I take care now.
Okay, that concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
All the lights are on.
We do have citizen communication. Is there a motion to move that up? All right, there's a motion and a second to take citizens communication out of order. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. First of all, a question to the manager. Mr. Moore, I've got 3 cards here, all on the same item dealing with the Murphy Jeffries building that was for demolition purposes. And I recall that was on our agenda previously. What's the status of that? I don't.
Correct. The board voted to condemn that property on March the 20th.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got Belinda Jeffries. If you would like to come forward, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm seeking to constitute some recognition of this building, its particular property historic significance. It was looked at on March the 23rd by Ralph Wilcox, and he wrote a 10 on his, that encases a 200-page architectural survey and about the building. He went down on 2901 Martin Luther King building and looked at it and saw that it was a building that needed to be retained, but not destroyed. And so I went and retained the services of a preservation architect, which would prioritize the identification and resolution of current issues on the exterior of the building. The last time when you saw a picture of the building, there was a structure that was hanging off the back of the building. It's only an attached structure. And so this architect person gave me a detailed condition assessment and a concept design report, which is intended to be completed within the next 45 to 60 days. We also sent a letter. If you can recall, I sent a letter to each one of you telling you about what I was trying to do. And the assessment report was to include a historical narrative illustrating the rich legacy of the 89 years of this building, presence within the south end of Little Rock. And it was submitted to Chuck Givens to supplement an eligibility application seeking National Register nomination. This building is more than what you see. I have some, may I show you what I've done with the building, Mayor?
Certainly. What have you got there,
I have
please,
some
Ms. Jeffries?
papers that,
Is that one for everyone or just?
Yes.
Okay, if you could hand them over to the clerk and then we'll pass them out. Thank you.
the thing that seemed to be concerning everybody about the building was the structure that was beginning to dilapidate as a result of 3 trees growing up under the structure, pulling it away from the main building. And so last Friday, I had a contractor to tear that part down and clear it off. And in your hands, you'll see where they have torn it down and they've cleared it off, and it's no longer an eyesore on the back of the building. And I'm asking if the building can be removed from the demolition list so that we can continue to update the building. Yesterday morning, I received a text from Chuck Givens, the manager, and he said that he didn't feel like that he had the authority to take the building off of the demolition list, that it would be in your hands.
Well, it's been, yes, yeah, that's right, Ms. Jeffries. It's already been condemned as an official board action. So I think what you're asking is you're asking the board to reconsider that or to, in some instance, pass an ordinance that would change the decision. So did I understand that you've retained a preservation architect to give you an assessment of the building? So
Yes.
you don't have that yet?
Yes, he did the Arkansas Architectural Resources Survey form by Ralph Wilcox. It says they number it a certain number, and so they numbered it a 10, saying that the building is already eligible for Arkansas Register.
Right.
It's already eligible, and it's looking like that it's also going to be eligible for national.
So if the board were to entertain a new ordinance concerning that, what is your intention with the building?
To retain the building back to where it was in 1929.
And can you tell us how it got in the condition that it's been in and how long you've had it?
My
in terms of-
dad owned the building from 1962 all the way up to 2003 and 2010, 2016. But my dad passed away in 2003, and the building was being occupied by other realtors, and it was being occupied by a Brown Christian funeral home, and all the way up until 2016. And after 2016, nobody was in the building, and it became something that people were trying to find ways to be a part of. And so, but in the meantime, the back attachment of the building was being destroyed by 3 trees that decided to grow up under there. I don't know where they came from, but they pulled that attachment stairway away from the building, and it was just a gradual thing that happened, and it started looking dilapidated, and it started looking very dangerous, and it started looking like a way for people to get into the building. And so it just recently got to be really, really bad, and I thought all I needed to do was board up around the building like they were telling me to do all the time, the doors around the building, but nobody ever told me I needed to take that structure off the building. I could have done that. That's the part that everybody seemed to be upset about, that was making it look really bad.
Okay, thank you. Nancy Telhall or Terry Jeffries, do you have anything additional to add?
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Nancy Telhall. I'm a historian. I have a history degree. I'm getting a graduate degree in public history at ULR. I just finished my internship at the City of Little Rock, where I wrote the nomination for the block building at 723 West Markham. We're trying to get that on the National Register, which I'm sure we will. As I was doing this, I came across the name Andrew Jeffries. And I decided that what I'm going to do my thesis on is Andrew Jeffries and Raymond Block Sr., because the two of them did a lot for realty in Pulaski County. And I met the two sisters when I was doing some research. The importance of this building, it really just can't be stressed enough, because Mr. Jeffries really is a national figure now. At least when I write, I intend to have my thesis published. I am a published author. And he was, with Raymond Block Sr., he was the first African-American independent realtor in the state of Arkansas. Also in that building was an attorney, Mercer, I believe his name is, Christopher Mercer, right? And I believe he had some cases with Daisy Bates. And anytime you say Daisy Bates in the historic community, you're pretty much going to get everyone's attention. The thing with the building is the back of it had to come down. When we take a building and we put it on the National Register, we have to have it back to the state it was in when Mr. Jeffries brought it. So that's why the back of it comes off, and we go in and we put the windows back in, we get pictures, and we restore it back to the way it was in 1963, because that in turn has the building the historic preservation. We can't do it like it is right now. So the plan is that she took the back of it off. There is a grant that we can write where the state comes in, if we can get it, put it back to its original form that it was in 1963, and then we go for National Registry, and then the grants will come in, and that will keep that building up. But I think it's really, really important as a civil rights structure for the state of Arkansas. And like I said, I think we can get some national attention on it too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Telhall. Ms. Jeffries, do you have anything to add?
Only thing I wanted to add is that Mr. Jeffries was my father, okay? And I've been doing extensive research. There are many things that I did not know. But to know that he was the person who worked for Block for 8 years and had the courage to sell a home in a white neighborhood was a thing all by itself. It got back to Block, and Block had to let him go. But Block said the following. He said, go get your own company. You know the real estate business like the back of your hand. So all of the people from Chris all the way down to Elizabeth Eckfords, all of these people started out with my father, and he guided them all the way down and through. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you, and to you, Ms. Telhall. Board members, let me go ahead. There's a couple of comments first, and then I think I can maybe explain procedurally what next could happen. Director Hendricks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to let the board know I had talked with both the daughters extensively. In fact, I know the day they were born. I worked with her dad, and I made her aware that it's important that she comes with facts, like when are you going to do the research or getting a grant to do the work, because the church next door is highly incensed. That building has been sitting there. Now, I've talked to the girls, and that we're going to have to move fast if the board agreed to, and I'm agreeable to them. But I was hoping, I said to her, did you bring something from the persons who inspected the building? That would have helped somewhat. But I'm for saving the building. So it's left up to you all.
Very good. Director Adcock, you're recognized.
One of the persons that we heard from during this time was the church next door, Ms. Mercer. Have you talked to the church since you've taken the back off? I know that their problem was children climbing up those steps and everything. That problem's gone. But have you talked to them since you started wanting to pull this off?
They saw the building
Reverend Blood actually came out when the structure was being removed, and he seemed to be pleased that that was happening. Those stairs and the porch and everything that led into the building from different directions, and so he seemed to be pleased about it. And as far as I know, that would be the only eyesore or the only complaint about the building, because all the other entrances to the building are secure.
And you're going to secure the windows also?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And thank you, ma'am.
So, Ms.
I would
Jeffrey?
like to hear from Mr. Givens also, if he's here, or Mr. Moore.
Okay. Ms. Jeffries, just a question. I know there was a couple of interior pictures that probably were taken from people who've gone in from the backside. What's the rest of the condition of the building like? You said it was occupied through 2016 or a part of 2016, so is the rest of the building in
The building is pretty
fairly decent
strong
condition?
inside. It has middle stairs. The middle entrance that when you go up the building is all wood, and the top floor is heavy wood all across the top floor, and there's nothing leaking in the building, and
Are these pictures from the back end of the building?
they're from the back where that structure
Okay.
was being torn
A fairly
apart.
large building, I mean.
It's a six-complex building, and the whole bottom level was part of the Brown Funeral Home and my dad's office, and then there was one apartment building in the back. It's a commercial residential building.
Okay, thank you. Director Hendricks, did you have other questions?
Oh, I just wanted to add also, it was a grocery store before Andrew purchased that building.
In 1929, J.F. Murphy built that building and sold it to Hallwell, J.F. Hallwell, and he made the bottom level of the building a grocery store, and upstairs, he lived upstairs.
Okay.
The thing that I want to say, I support it, but I hope that we could put a deadline on getting a grant or whatever it is, because it can't just stay there forever.
Well, the building is no longer a threat with that piece off of it, and by August the 13th, we will be submitting a narrative for the registry, Arkansas Registry application.
But what you need to do is to wait to see what this board is going to do
you
before
know-
you spend your money.
I'm fairly familiar with the process, and you can get it on the National Register, but that doesn't get you any money.
That's right.
Well,
There's
we have a little
The
money.
Department of Arkansas Heritage have some very small grants, very small dollar amounts as grants that can help a little bit, but primarily you're looking at state or federal tax credits that would give you some benefit in terms of the overall cost of rehabilitating that structure. So I don't want you to be mistaken about the fact that there's some big pot of grant money out there that once you get on the National Register, you'll be entitled to.
Well, as I was trying to say, March the 20th, money was coming in from another trust property, and we were asking for extended time at that time, about 3 more months, but then you already decided to demolish it. And so we can use some of the money that we've just received to help get it done in phases.
Very good. Director Adcock.
I asked for Mr. Moore or staff to.
Okay.
put their comments,
Thank you, Ms.
please.
Jeffries. If there are any other questions, we'll ask you to come back.
What would you like to know, Director Adcock?
I'd like to know staff's opinion of this, since it's had the back taken off.
Let me ask our planning director. I'm not sure we were aware, but we'll see.
Director Adcock, the majority of the problems with the building was in the back located. Now, there's some minor stuff on inside the building that needs to be addressed, and we do have a list of items that need to be, fixed in order for it to be repaired, and so we can make that available to the board.
Okay, have you shared that with Ms. Mercer? Does she know what list needs to be repaired?
Well, at the time when we send out the list, we did it per our procedure and requesting, and that list should have been prepared and sent to them of what needed to be fixed on the building prior to bringing it to the board for condemnation.
Okay.
So that list has not changed.
Do you have a copy of the list?
Not with me. I'll
Not
have
with
to
you, but
send
you
that.
can, you have one that can be given to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I wonder if we might want to put this off for 2 weeks until we see the list from the staff and let Ms. Mercer look at the list before she continues.
I don't think anybody heard you, Director Adcock. If you'll-
I'm sorry. I said perhaps we could defer this for 2 weeks so that Mr. Collins can get with Ms. Mercer and give her the list of the items that we would need to have addressed on this property before we vote on this.
Well, it's not on, it's not, it's already been condemned, and it's in an administrative pendency right now that, as is our procedure, the staff would then go about to submit for bids to have the building torn down. I don't know Bruce, can you tell us what the status of that is?
Right now, because of the size of the building, we're going through a review of asbestos and by ADQ, so that's where we are at this point.
So if it's the board's desire to get further information about what needs to be done to rehabilitate this property, you can make sure that we don't have a contractor out there tearing it down?
No, we hadn't done that yet.
Okay. All right. Very good. Director Richardson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess that was the point, Bruce. I was going to recommend that we explore all options possible to help these individuals restore and keep this building, because I've seen people come up here with plans on properties that are going to be demolished with less specificity, with rehab plans and or financial means to accomplish those plans. So whatever we can do to provide much assistance as possible to help them keep this property, because I'm not a big fan of demolished buildings in certain parts of our communities. These vacant lots make these places look like war zone, and I think this is a significant building, Mayor. So I would encourage you, Bruce, and your staff to explore all means possible to provide assistance to these ladies here.
And we will, and I think probably what I'll do is just add for the next agenda an ordinance that would take it off the list with some time frames, and I think that's important to have some time frames in there. So we'll ask the city attorney to prepare something along that line.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Director Adcock?
I was going to make the motion to do exactly what Mr. Moore said, so that's fine.
No, there's no. Okay, and Ms. Jeffries, certainly the significance of the building and on Martin Luther King Drive as well, I think, is important. And I would encourage you to when we come back in 3 weeks, to be the first meeting in June. If you will be prepared to let us know. By that time, you'll have a chance to look at the repair list and also look at what finances you have available. And I would really encourage you to check with the Department of Arkansas Heritage on whether or not there are any grant monies that they will give to eligible properties and what the amounts are. Again, I think your best bet is to take whatever funding you have and to try and do a tax credit project that'll help you get the improvements done, and it'll give you a substantial 25% tax credit on state tax credits and a 20% on the federal if it's income producing property, and I suspect this is so. But check that out, so that'll be of some help to you, I think, when you look at the overall repair that's going to be necessary. Okay, thank you very much, and we'll see you back here on the first meeting in June. Go ahead, Director Hendricks.
I just want to tell Belinda not to waste your money. That's what I had to stop her from doing. You know, people were calling her. I said, don't you be fooled unless this board moved. Don't do that. Okay? She's been in touch with me quite often. It's just like she's my child. She's the one that does the soprano at the Messiah every Sunday, every Christmas.
Very good. All right. Thank you. All right. We have one more card from Mr. Rakoff dealing with ShotSpotter.
Yes, sir. Last week I sent an email out to you guys about the Little Rock Police changing their mind about the equipment to compare shells from weapons. And that had come before the board for an approval. It's my understanding that even though these are federal grant funds, the board still has to approve the use of those funds. And the Democrat Gazette had an article last Monday that said that the police had changed their mind. They were going to use this money to purchase this shot spotter program. I did a little research on it and found out that a lot of cities, like there was in the email, have backed off of this program or this software because it wasn't netting results. There's been no empirical studies done to show its effectiveness. And as the Democrat Gazette article pointed out, it costs anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 a year to use that software in a square mile. And I don't know how that's going to be funded, but I can't see that the city is going to want to spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a program that really doesn't work, that the government itself is backing off of. I think that the justification for this equipment to verify the shells was because the state crime lab does that, and they are backed up, and Little Rock Police is having to wait for the crime lab. I think it'd be a much more better use of that grant money to buy that equipment that lets them examine the shells. That's something that we won't have to replace. We don't have to pay yearly fees for, and it's just a more prudent use of our money with that. And I think that this, again, is another reason to evaluate the continued employment of our chief of police. Thank you.
All right, very good. That concludes our citizen communication. Is there a motion to go into executive session? There's a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed say nay. Okay, we'll be back shortly. She works. She works for WDIF. Okay, we're back in session. For the purpose of appointments to boards and commissions, the first one is the Arts and Culture Commission, and I would like to appoint Alice Gatton to an at-large position for a 3-year term. And Chuck Cleat, I want to move him to one of the cultural institution positions that's open, and Mimi San Pedro to the unexpired term of Mr. Cleat for 4/2/19. Is there a motion for those, to confirm those? Yes, yes. Second? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. They're approved. And on the Housing Board of Adjustment and Appeals, I would like to appoint Corey English to one of the at-large positions and re-advertise the 3 at-large positions. And we're going to hold off on the other 2 for a meeting that we're going to have, hopefully based on a motion to recess this meeting until the 29th. We are not going to we're going to try and handle Mr. Moore's evaluation on the 29th. Yes, Mr. Moore.
That's when Director Peck and I are going to be in Chicago. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the 22nd. You're right. Sorry.
You okay, Bruce? Yeah. Okay. Okay, is there a motion to go into recess until the 29th? Sorry, Director Hendricks, go ahead, please.
I want to pass out the ordinance that Mr. Carpenter has put together for me for the at-large positions, and it's a four-letter on the beginning. I think I gave him, he has his. Take one, Ken, and pass him on.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think there's enough of you all here that once you read it, and we will vote on it on June 5th. And it's almost similar to what happened for the mayor, is that we put that on the ballot. I think that we all said yes, and it was on the ballot.
So you would like this on the agenda for the first meeting in June, is that right?
What do you mean? I've told Mr. Moore.
Mr. Moore?
I just want to be clear because you said the second meeting in June. I believe that's
The 5th
accurate.
of, the 5th of June.
Okay, that's the first meeting. But in your email to me, okay.
So what?
Email what?
Say the second.
I thought it was the second, but that's fine.
The first. The first.
So let me make sure we're clear then. You want this on the first meeting in June?
June 5th. Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Director,
And it's like, were you talking? It's like we're letting the people decide, not for us. Our job, what I'm asking of you all is to put it on the ballot, which will be November 6th, and they can vote it up or down. And it's identical. I'm being redundant, but it's identical to when 2007 in August we had this board voted. No, Tracy Steele passed a piece of legislation that was passed to us, and then there was an election for the mayor to have veto power, and that passed. So hopefully this will pass in November. Mr. Carpenter, can you help? What else?
Having a directly elected mayor was done in an ordinance after Future Little Rock that expanded the board to 11 members, and that was done, and then an election was held. It's required by statute.
Mm-hmm. So you all got any comments or conversation?
Director Richardson, you're recognized.
Well, thank you, man. I told Lance and Gene I'm not adverse to getting out here early, but Director Henry, I do agree with Bruce. I think the email that you sent to Bruce and I indicated the second meeting in June. And I think your rationale for doing that was to give Tom and Scott enough time to do the research based on the question that I posed that night when we talked about it. So I thought I was under the assumption from a preparatory standpoint.
I want you to send me a copy of that email.
Yes, ma'am, I would do that.
Well, there are questions that I assume, Mr. Carpenter, you're going to have answers for us before the 5th, or try to? Is that right or wrong?
Yes, Director Richardson asked a number of questions.
And I think there were some other board members that asked questions too.
Vice Mayor Webb, and I think that, Mayor, based on those questions, I think Tom had indicated it's going to take a little bit more time in coordination with him working with Scott. I think Scott was going to have to do a lot of that research to have full, complete answers to those questions that I posed and Vice Mayor Webb posed. And I think Director Hendricks, that's why you said the second meeting in June.
Tom, I would, and with all respect to Director Hendricks, she has making the point that we're at risk legally on this issue relative to certain issues dealing with Voting Rights Act and dealing with the at-large issue of representation, and I would like you to provide us some legal memorandum on your opinion about those issues relative to the situation. Okay. I know we've had many at-large minorities elected in the past, and I don't know whether that has an impact on this or not, but certainly if you have anything you can provide to us that would help to educate us on that matter, I think it would be good. Director Hendricks.
I would love the other board members to say something. I'm agree with whatever, but I wanted to tell Director Richardson, he and Robert were the two persons asked me to change it because, see, initially I was wanting us to vote this time, and then I moved it for them because they said we needed to do some research, which I agreed on. So I want you boys to send me that email. I'm a member to changing. It's okay with me.
Here's what I think would had happened, because I've been saying the June 15th date was a second board meeting. The email said June 15th, and you probably didn't mean to add the 1 and just added June 5th, but not me looking at a calendar. When I saw 15th, I knew that would be the second meeting, so.
Okay.
But it's the 19th. So by your rules, do you want it on the first meeting in June? Is that what you're saying?
Let me ask Mr. Carpenter, what's the deadline for getting this to the Election Commission
60 days.
in order for it to be on that November 6th?
It has to be at least 60 days before the election.
60 days?
Yeah, so June the
So we're in good
15th.
shape.
June the 19th would be fine.
It'd be good. So you're saying change it? It's okay, as long as we make that deadline over at the state, over at the county, for getting on the ballot for November 6th for the people to decide. But
Well,
this
you
isn't
got-
about Irma Hendricks, it's about the city of Little Rock. And I want to express to Director
So-
Adcock is that this isn't anything against you personally, it's that I want to be equal to you. That's my intent. All of us would be equal. Right now, that's not the case. And Tom knows that I have, okay. Okay, so do we need to make a
So
motion?
Director Hendricks, I just want to be clear. So you want this, you want to give Mr. Carpenter till the
Yes,
19th, or
yes.
I guess a couple days before then,
Yes, it's
to
not
get all
this-
these issues and questions answered. So we're now back to the second week in June.
Yeah, it's
I
not
mean, this
about
is,
me.
this is your request, so I just want to make sure we're clear.
It's my request
Okay,
that we
very good.
change what Bruce Moore has said. I don't know about my fellow over here, but Tom, okay.
Okay, second week in June, or the second meeting in June.
Second that vote. Do we need to make a motion?
It's not necessary.
Okay, I just want to follow the.
All right, is there a motion to go into recess till May 29th? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. We're in recess. Thank you.